setting, whether it's at a school or in the community, using violence to resolve a conflict is unacceptable. We know that targeted violence is premeditated violence that's directed at specific individuals, groups, or locations, and that individuals who engage in targeted violence often display threatening or concerning behaviors that are observable by others. And if those are identified and addressed early, we can reduce the likelihood of a violent incident taking place. That has obvious application in schools where we can prevent targeted violence, as well as other settings. Director Kilpin partnered with Wisconsin DPI, as well as the Department of Homeland Security, to create a free e-learning module. It's titled The Foundations of Targeted Violence Prevention. It's designed to educate the public as well, on threatening or potentially concerning behaviors, as well as where to report those behaviors. That provides an opportunity for intervention to prevent targeted violence from occurring. Nationwide, nearly 15,000 people have now completed that training, including more than 1,000 people here in Wisconsin, and we're working on translating that into Spanish as well. I should also mention our Office of School Safety team supports the 24/27 program, 24/7 program, Speak Up, Speak Out. That offers a confidential reporting opportunity for anybody associated with a school to report any concerns about school violence. We've now received over 10,000 tips since the inception of that program on September 1st of 2020, and that includes about 250 tips regarding planned school attacks. Those tips run the gamut, everything from concerns about vaping or bullying to concerns about planned school attacks. And what they allow us to do is to get information into trusted adults who can act and prevent violence before it happens, and can also address concerns about impacts on school climate. So this office plays a critical role in the ways I've mentioned and others in keeping schools in Wisconsin safe. It's important to note that this office is funded through the end of September of 2025, so basically a little over a year from now, so through the next school year and then the following summer. But we do need long-term funding for this office to keep operating, and we will be asking for that funding in the upcoming state budget, and it's my hope that lawmakers will see the importance of this office and will recognize the importance of school safety and keep this office in place. So now, with more about what's happening at this training here today, I'm going to turn it over to the Director of our Office of School Safety, Trish Kilpin.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh. I'm Trish Kilpin, the Director of the Office of School Safety. Our Office of School Safety here in Wisconsin was launched after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting in Parkland, Florida in February 2018. Time and time again, we have seen the tragic aftermath of school shootings, things that could have been prevented if people knew how to intervene effectively to prevent these violent acts from occurring. At the Office of School Safety, we prioritize prevention, preventing violence. In order to prevent violence, we have to have people be learned and have confidence in order to conduct a behavioral threat assessment and management plan for a student that may be considering using violence to redress their concern or their upset. When a student is planning an act of targeted violence, such as a school shooting, they have certain plans and preparations in order to achieve that goal. Because it's planned and predatory, it is observable. They go through certain behaviors and oftentimes leak their intentions to peers. It can be observed in their writings, in different indicators that they may be on that pathway to intended violence. This is where we urge students and community members to share when they have a concern about someone planning a violent act. Students often do know when peers are planning such events. SUSO, our 24/7 call center, is a confidential place where people can report concerns about kids, about youth. Our most common tip to SUSO is about bullying. And we know when we study previous school attacks that they often start with a grievance or an upset. And for kids, their social identity is critically important. So when kids feel that they're being bullied or harassed and they don't have appropriate support and intervention, they may start thinking about using negative or violent ways in order to resolve their issue. The goal today is not to get kids started in the juvenile justice system. We're not trying to get kids arrested and increase criminal referrals. What we're doing is trying to intervene effectively when kids are struggling, when they're demonstrating signs that they're not okay, and get them the interventions they need so they don't resort to violence. The aftermath, the tragic aftermath of a school shooting is so, it impacts so many, and we cannot afford to have our youth and our staff and our communities impacted in this way. So we choose to prioritize prevention, and today's behavioral threat assessment program takes multidisciplinary teams from communities. Here in Appleton, we have a high showing of participants from Appleton, and it includes law enforcement partners and school counselors and social workers and teachers and those who would help identify what's going on with a student and intervene appropriately. At the Office of School Safety, we've established strong partnership with the Appleton Police Department, and in specific, their threat assessment coordinator there, and have been able to do some very intentional work and consultation when there's been concerns about specific students. We have high regard for the Appleton School District in advancing their school safety practices and really prioritizing this work. There are many challenges and limited resources in our schools, and the fact that so many educators and partners are here today tells us that the priority in Appleton is for student safety and school safety. I would turn the microphone over now to Captain Jack Tasher from the Appleton Police Department, who will talk to you more about our multidisciplinary approach.
Hello, I'm Captain Jack Tasher with the Appleton Police Department. I come by way of starting off after going through patrol, being a school resource officer at Appleton East for a number of years. From there, I moved on to become a lieutenant and worked my way through as a coordinator for the SRO program. Over my time in doing these things, the Office of School Safety has allowed us to widen our view on everything that goes on. She speaks of our threat assessment officer. His start was as an SRO and working within the district. And we know the value of the Office of School Safety. AG Call, Attorney General Call, had talked about the social workers, the hospitals, the mental health professionals, the other people involved. It is a community effort between us, the district, and all those entities. And the Office of School Safety really is the glue for that, because it gives us a central point for, hey, this kind of training would be beneficial, for people outside of the Appleton School District, because we've already gone this route with it. And there's things that we can learn in time and in part by working with Office of School Safety because of this. She good? Okay. So as we work together, and as Ms. Kipling had talked about, working with our threat assessment officer, some of these trainings come from that, and we can network then. Appleton has one of the largest school resource officer programs in the state. We are one of the oldest school resource officers units in the state. And because of all this information we have, and there's things that we can learn, it's great to have a central location. I can speak firsthand on the value of the Speak Up, Speak Out app. We had a great conversation with the district and transitioned to that 3 or 4 years ago. And the value of having that 24/7 monitoring is unbelievable. Being able to get on top of things at midnight as opposed to 8 a.m. when students are already there is invaluable. So when you look at what the districts are up against, we're all public employees and budgets and everything else. The opportunity for the state to provide an outlet like this that the district can lean on, law enforcement can lean on from a school resource officer area, and all the different entities, social workers, CPS, YFS, and the hospitals, it provides a safer environment. And so as we look to September of 25, the value of this program and what the state can do to help the rest of the districts around the state, including Appleton, is something that strongly needs to be looked at, and I think should be continued because of what it can bring to the students and of all the districts throughout the state of Wisconsin. I will be turning it over to Laura Jackson, the Executive Director of Student Services.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Safe schools are an essential part and key component of our district's mission reach having success for every student every day. And school safety, as an important part of that, is a comprehensive approach. Our teachers, our school staff, our administrators every day are engaging in practices of prevention through the connections that they build with students, through their opportunities for informal and formal dialogue with families and community, and through addressing problems and situations that occur. With creating a sense of community in our schools, our school resource officers from the Appleton Police Department and Grand Chute Police Department are key components of that whole sense of community within our buildings. They also build relationships with our students. That, again, are key parts of prevention of school violence. Hopefully, we're never talking about incidents of it because our prevention strategies are so effective. The Department of Justice, Office of School Safety, has been an outstanding partner for us. As already mentioned, the Speak Up, Speak Out app is one that we have promoted heavily in our community because giving any opportunity for someone to report a concern gives us an opportunity to address it that we may not have had otherwise. With that, we are about 10% of the Speak Up, Speak Out calls are from Appleton, or reports are from Appleton. And that tells us we're reaching our families, we're reaching our community, we're reaching our students, and they have a way to share that information. We also get to see the follow-up and participate in that follow-up. And as Captain Tashner noted, it's 24/7. So our partners with the police department, with the Department of Justice, are responding sometimes on the weekend, in the middle of the night, before school staff have even seen the report. That Speak Up, Speak Out app is essential as we move forward, and we're so grateful to the Department of Justice for providing that for us. Additionally, this training here today, the Behavior Threat Assessment and Management Training, a small team of us participated in April, and we have a large group from Appleton, surrounding districts, and further away districts such as Oregon and Toma, participating in this today because it is so essential. This gives us a framework for how do we look at the information we're receiving, how do we look at the observations we're receiving, and the notes that we're taking in order to address things so that we can provide that care first and intervene, and then continue to prevent situations and support students throughout. That management plan of ongoing support is essential. And our partnership with the Appleton Police Department, the Grand Chute Police Department, and the Office of School Safety is instrumental in ensuring that we are all moving forward together and in that care, prevent, intervene, and support of students. Thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to our Attorney General, Nicole.
Thank you. So again, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you to the Appleton School District, the Appleton PD for your partnership on critical issues like school safety. And happy to, no, that's all right. I was just going to say happy to open it up to questions.
As we head into the upcoming school year, I guess what is the biggest school safety concern?
Can you speak to that?
The Wisconsin Youth Risk Behavior Survey just was released, and the 2023 data shows that we have work to do in terms of kids feeling safe in school. So regardless of interventions that are done, if a school determines to, let's say, have metal detectors or things like that, kids might not feel safe. And so we have big work to do in terms of creating communities, creating school climates where kids feel safe in their school, they feel seen, heard, and respected, and they know if they have a concern that it'll be efficiently handled by the trusted adults.
Do you think the kids want metal detectors in their schools? Is that,
No, the research really shows they don't. They don't. But we have to be comprehensive. There is no one single intervention that's going to create safe schools. It is a much more complex issue than that, and that is why our resources have to be layered. We are simultaneously working on prevention, protection, locked doors, secure entrances, mitigation, so when situations arise, we're responding to them effectively to decrease the trauma impact, and then our response and recovery. So these are the efforts that school safety teams and school crisis teams are prioritizing in Wisconsin, and we choose to really prioritize that prevention piece as much as possible while we're ready to handle things if they arise. I think schools are struggling with their limited resources to prioritize the trainings that are available, and we're really proud to be able to provide this free to schools so that they can have a large number of staff participate. And we are flexible in coming in the summer before school starts so that, they don't have substitute teachers or, staff to come support the schools otherwise. I'll also point out, like behind you on the wall, there are some of the protocols for school safety here in this very room. And the preparation that has to happen prior to a school year is essential, so that that everyone knows what to do if there is an emergency, and that you're creating spaces where kids can report their concerns early.
Could I'll just add a couple things. Thank you, Patricia. Two things I'll say just to follow up on those. One is this is not an issue that there are quick fixes for. This is something that requires a concerted effort by school districts, like you've heard about from the Appleton School District. Our goal is never to get to the place where there has to be an intervention because you're worried about a planned school attack. Of course, we want to make sure we are prepared to respond if that situation does arise. But a lot of the work of school safety happens on the front end before somebody goes down that pathway to violence, and that itself can play a big role. Second thing on the concerns about students' feeling of safety is we're in a very different environment than we were when I was going to public schools. I remember hearing stories about how the generation before mine had done nuclear fallout drills in classrooms and hid under their desks. And we thought, wow, that was such a different era. It's so nice to be in an era now where we don't have to do those sorts of drills. And the reality is that the generation that my kids are growing up in and kids who are going to schools now are growing up in is one where they go through a different type of drill than that, but drills that are about school safety. So making sure that we're also providing guidance on how kids can feel safe when those are happening, how schools can do it in a way that keeps kids feeling safe, yet preparing them in case they do need to respond. That's an area, it's a good example of why having a body like the Office of School Safety that can look at best practices and provide that kind of guidance to schools can make such a difference.
Jack, maybe this is for you. I know, 20% of the tips that are coming in are from the Appleton.
Or near 10.
Oh, 10. So 10% of that are coming. You just talk about, when a tip comes in, what you do, and we kind of work it, backwards to prevent.
Sure. So, if it's during school hours, that tip comes directly to our SRO coordinator, as well as the SROs that are assigned to those schools. So they're all put on alert immediately. It's an email that comes through, and because the notification's obviously on our phones, they're knowing that this is coming through and they can react instantaneously. If it is an after-hours thing, the call center then calls our PD and gets an on-duty supervisor, who then vets through the process. If they realize this is an immediate response thing, they'll instantly kick a couple patrol officers and then contact the SRO coordinator at his home. We either jumpstart some of the SRO coordinators as well as our threat assessment officer, depending on what the complaint is, or we let patrol kind of vet the initial, and then everyone's kind of in the loop before school even begins. So by 5 a.m., they can start getting resources going and whatever else. If it's one of those that after hours requires that call in, then the SRO coordinator will then contact our SROs and we'll bring some in, and then they'll respond at that time, as well as contacting the district. I know years when I was in the schools, I would work with Mr. Harches, we'd have contact, and now he's in charge of everything, but he's not in the loop as much now, but that's how we worked. And it was really a great effort because we have all the numbers we need from the district. They have all the numbers they need from the PD standpoint. When that tip is monitored 24/7 and you can get 8, 9, 10 hours ahead of it before the school day starts, that adds security to everybody, as well as parents and students. And sometimes you can even give out information because of what we've already discovered over the nighttime hours, where that was never a possibility 4 years ago for us. The tip would come in. If a principal saw it before the school day started, you might walk in and try to jumpstart from there, but you're already behind the 8 ball because now you have 1,500 or 2,000 students already in the building, and you have to worry about the safety of everybody. So it's really invaluable, and because law enforcement's a 24/7 service, they're able to contact people, and we can get so far ahead of these things to really help mitigate any safety concerns. You know, I mean, you're not perfect, but the opportunity is there, and that's what's great about it.
Can you pinpoint a situation where you may have prevented something, or I guess?
Without getting into specifics, because
Yeah,
the juvenile
right,
stuff,
right.
absolutely. I mean, I can think of 4 off the top of my head, specifically with our threat assessment officer, especially when he was in the SRO unit and beyond, where he got ahead of stuff so quick, and with, you know, some of the trainings he's been a part of, some of the trainings he's put on, he was able, you know, with the collaborative effort from the group in the district to mitigate some pretty serious situations, because this came in at 11 p.m. and now by 1 a.m. we're already making contact to the home, maybe drafting paperwork, doing different things that we have to do to make sure that at 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30, whatever time the building's open, you know, hopefully the kids are none the wiser. And they can go on about their day and worry about the things they should, like an English test or a math test, or what am I going to eat for lunch, or what is gym class going to be today. So that's the goal.
And I guess, you know, they're here obviously to study and learn about the threat assessment. It seems a lot, maybe, I don't, I guess, you know, it's relative, right? 4 incidents that you could think of. Did things slip through the cracks in trainings like this today, or helping to get ahead of it before that tip comes in?
No, I don't think anything fell through the cracks. I mean, you know, Ms. Kipling had talked about leakage. If you don't know what you're looking for, or if that leakage didn't get to the right ears, you're not going to be able to react to that. Those 4 incidents I talk about, either it was after school hours, we're hanging out at a park, or we're going to Walmart, and now I make a comment to my friend, and the friend gets home and processes like this, that's not right. So now that tip comes into the speak up, speak out, and we start betting it right away. It's great. But I don't think it's a flaw of anywhere. This training here is getting everybody on the same page. So you look at the Fox Valley. Just because a kid comes to Appleton East doesn't mean they live in the city of Appleton. They could live in Menasha. So we need to be on board with Menasha School District and their SROs so that we can have those conversations back and forth. And that's what Office of School Safety does for everybody, especially when you look at the Fox Valley. And the amount of kids that spill over by way of either school choice, or they live in this jurisdiction, but technically it's this school district. You know, we need something like that, and that's what this provides.
And can I just say, prevention starts very, very early. So, prevention starts very, very early. Many of our speak up, speak out concerns that are raised, as was stated, the bulk of things are reporting bullying. That might be that someone said something to me at the lunch table today. That might be that someone shared a name or body shamed someone. Those reports are also really important, because while our SRO may not get involved with that, our school staff are on top of it and investigating it and addressing it with the student who reported it and about the students who were reported about. That is a key part of prevention, and the leakage of information can come from things like that. When you look at the buildup over time, that's part of the management, and having all of our people on the same page to address these concerns of students that, as reported in the YRBS survey and local surveys, when they're not feeling safe, that's also about feeling disrespected and being uncomfortable because of something someone said. With the SUSO reports and the practices our staff are learning today, we are able to jump on those things early so they never get to the point of a high alert.
I will add, I don't know when that was, when we gave you that feedback about the number of tips. That surprised me. But the tips that we've received to SUSO have grown at an immense rate. So I would be glad to get the data on the actual percentage of tips that are coming from Appleton. I think that many schools have increased their usage, so there may be a difference there. So we'll get that information to you. But I will say that when you build a culture of help seeking in a school, as opposed to telling on kids, this is when we're able to make some real growth. So here in Appleton, it is obvious to us, based on their usage of SUSO and some other indicators, that there is that culture, that if somebody is thinking of self-harm or anxiety, it's not like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with that child, tell on them. It's that they need help. How can we get them help? And that is what SUSO is about, is building that culture of help seeking.
And is that sort of the continuing message as we head into the school year, to keep using this resource?
If somebody needs help, please tell someone who can help them. That is the message. We also know it's important for students to have relationships with trusted adults in their schools. We're not trying to replace that. We want kids to have that relationship, but there are times when they don't have access to that adult. It might be 11 o'clock at night. It might be, that they're nervous about telling someone and they don't want anyone to see them. We just give them options in terms of this. When we receive the tip, we validate that person. So the student that's reporting it to us, there's a chat feature, so we communicate with the kids in the style they're used to, which is kind of like texting. And so they send us a message saying, I'm uncomfortable at school today. Or like when we say, I'm so sorry to hear that, how can we help? And then find out more. And then we get that information to the school counselor. The reports that we send to the SROs, although they can see all of them depending on how they have it set up, we always contact law enforcement if there's a criminal matter, if there's a life safety matter or imminence. And so while many tips may not even really be the primary focus of the police department, the research on tip lines really is to prevent school shootings. That's what it's been shown, demonstrated, and school violence. When you have access to a tip line, there's less violence in your school. But it has also just a broad diffusion of benefits. We're seeing kids getting help for depression, for child abuse, for child sexual abuse, maltreatment, all kinds of things. And it just starts with trusting people enough to let them know that you need help or your friend needs help.
All right, well, thank you all for being here again, and thanks again to the school district for hosting us and for your partnership. Thanks.